Hello, Broadway world. I don't have any makeup on and I have a knit hat on. You're welcome. I have my pin curls underneath here and I'm getting ready for my show. So this is what I look like before I have makeup on. It's fine. I mean, honestly, what attracted me to this role is for the last 2 shows that I've done, they've been straight plays. And they've been basically like the central character within those plays. So there's a definite obligation to be sort of the conduit, the window for the audience, which means a lot of heavy lifting. You have to kind of lob the ball to the people who are meant to hit it out of the park in terms of the jokes, and you have to essentially be the heart of the show and tell the story. And you know, I just had a second neck surgery, and I was like, I'm too tired to carry anything. But what I would love to do is play one of the peripheral characters where I get to come in and be like, "Rocka-dacka-dacka, yay, I'm so funny," and leave. Also, and Patty actually said to me, she's like, "You're so funny. I feel like people don't know that you're funny," which is interesting to me because that, to me, is the defining characteristic of my life, is like my weird sense of humor. So I also thought it would be nice to play somebody who that's what they lead with. You know, she's clearly the comic relief. So that I was interested in that. And you know, I think that you have to be, if I learned anything from watching my husband on Rescue Me, you have to be a smart person in order to play a dumb person. I mean, I guess a dumb person can play a dumb person, but I don't find it as intriguing. And certainly it's more difficult to give a character like this heart. And I think that that is a really important part of any role that you play. You want to embody them with a sense of humanity. So finding the humanity in someone who could be a caricature was very interesting to me. Well, when I was rehearsing the Vibrator play, they were next door doing, I think, the last workshop of this, or the second workshop of this. So, you know, I'm friends with Patti LuPone. I never thought I'd say that, but I am. And I knew she was doing it. And then we talked about it, and she was saying, she was like, "Doll, it's so brilliant, and you know, Pedro is amazing, and Bart is amazing. I've always wanted to work with Barlett Sher." And I was just blown away by the cast that they assembled. So I was really interested in doing a brand new musical written by composers that I've always admired and getting to work with Patty again. I don't think my character is naive. What would I say? She's not naive. She's just easily distracted. You know, there's so much going on in her life. You know, she's fallen in love, or she thinks she's fallen in love in 3 days, with a Shiite terrorist. But I love how she is so able to be derailed by all of the other things that are happening, and then starts falling in love, or her version of falling in love, with this other dude who isn't engaged. So I don't think she's naive, but I do think she's innocent in a way, which was also a challenge because she could be played, I think, in a very overly sexed way, which I think would be gross. For me, would be gross. So I wanted there to be a balance of her sexuality and her innocence. If you meet, you know, lots of models, like I know lots of models, but the models that I do know, there is this sort of sense of like, they take for granted how beautiful they are. They have no idea. They don't lead with it. It's just part of who they are. Like, of course men open doors for you. Of course men give you their cabs. I'm like, that doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to Candela, and that is fun to play. Candela is a complete fabrication. I did not base her at all on the woman in the movie because I'm so different from her. And having done so many revivals, I realized that that is a dangerous road to go down because you're only going to disappoint people by not being them. So at least be your full expression of who you think this character is. And although I wanted to impress Pedro, I also wanted to, I feel like my real responsibility, and Patty taught me this among many things, my real responsibility is to the script at hand, to the musical. So she is just a total fabrication. She is unlike anyone I know. It's not based on anyone. Her little walk came from the fact that I really honestly could not walk in heels after my second surgery, so I would kind of hobble. And then Bart and I were like, that's kind of funny. I'm gonna keep that. I like the idea that she's like walking in her mother's shoes almost. So here's this person who's supposed to be like stomping a runway who can't even manage to walk down the street like a person. But I did see a lady walking down the street who was walking like her, and I was like, oh my God! And I followed her for a really long time until it was creepy, and then I stopped. The hardest part is just is how exhausting she is. I love her, but she is tiring. just the physical aspect of walking like her. You know, once I have the trench coat on, for those who've seen the show, once I have the trench coat on, I have this 10-pound harness that I put around my waist. And so for 25 minutes, I'm wearing a 10-pound harness and I'm walking like a little squirrel. And then I have to run in 1 minute and 30 seconds, run up 4 flights of stairs, get hooked into the thing and come down from the ceiling. So it's physically tiring. So that's hard, but the most fun part is hearing the audience's reaction, because when you're the central character, the audience clearly appreciates you because you've taken them on the journey and you're like the director, you're the conductor of the train, and everyone else's applause is in a way because you have told the story well, but there's nothing like hearing the audience be like, "We love you!" So that feels really, really nice. And just to be so silly, to get to be like, because I'm really silly, so to get to finally bring that onto a stage in a way that it's appropriate, or sometimes inappropriate, it's just a blast. It's so, so, so fun.
It's me again, why aren't you picking up the phone? It's like my brain is gonna melt if I don't talk to you. I've got a problem in the shower and I've only got a minute, cause the problem in the shower is this guy that I've been dating named Malik. He's Western, swarthy like a desert sheik, and he's been here in my apartment for about a week. I met him down at Cafe Sombra, and I know you think I'm overly romantic, but you wouldn't believe the connection we had. Like immediately, I was ready for him to meet my mom. Like I could feel my heart exploding like some kind of bomb, which is ironic because actually I think he literally has some kind of... Anyway, Grandpa, happy birthday. Say hello to Grandma and be sure and think, yo, that was him. And they've been jumping to conclusions, God, I hope I am. He thinks I'm thin and he's got shoulders like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Listen to me when you hear this, I'll be here for half an hour. Call me back.
My favorite moment of the show is the farce. My favorite moment of the show is the farce at the end when we're with all the gazpacho and when I'm dropping my dress. And because for me, it is a constant battle to not laugh when I'm doing that really unsexy dance that's meant to be sexy. And there are some days where the audience is quieter than others and I'm doing this crazy dance and no one's laughing and I feel so dirty. And it is so hard to not laugh. So that is fun for us on stage, to be like, am I gonna start laughing? That's super fun. And my song is really fun. I mean, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna do it on the street when the show closes. I will sing on people's answering machines. You know what? I actually would sing on people's answering machines if they donate to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. I'll do it. I gotta figure out how much it's gonna be. What do you think is fair?
I don't know.
$100?
I think that's fair.
I think $100 to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, and I will sing whatever portion of the song you want, and it will be your answering machine message. I'm serious. I'll totally do it. Meanwhile, it's going to be like 1,000 people, and I'm like, I'm out of the show. I'm vocally exhausted. I've been singing on too many people's answering machines. Working with Barlett Sher is the greatest experience. I mean, Arthur Lawrence really changed the way that I approach acting. He and Patty taught me so much. I don't think it's a coincidence that my acting style deepened through my experience with them, and I was able to parlay what I had learned from Arthur into the working experience that I had then with Nikki Martin and Les Waters, and working with Bart and working with this group of people was just so freeing. And also I think because I'm playing a person with limitless possibilities, there's so many different directions that she can go in, and she goes in all of them. So that's very freeing as an actor. But what he did so beautifully is he led me down a path and then just said, like, run with it. Just do it. And then he would leave me, he would bring me back, and he's really beautiful. He has a really beautiful blend of humor and heart. He understands that in order for something to be truly funny, it has to be very real. I adore working with him. I hope I get to work with him over and over and over again. I became vegan again. I was vegan for 10 years. After I went to a farm, and I was like, that cow is a hamburger. I'm not going to do that anymore, because I had a spiritual experience with a cow at the age of 10. And then I like wanted to get really skinny when I got here, and I went on the Atkins diet. Hi, from veganism to Atkins. And that was crazy town. And then I read a book. Actually, I read multiple books about the environment and the state of our world and our health. And I realized that veganism is really what's best for me. you know, I don't want to be one of those obnoxious vegans who's like, oh, you're eating that, are you? You know, I hate that. But that I find for me, physically, spiritually, it's the way to go. I lost a significant amount of weight when I became vegan again. And I do Pilates every single day. My physical therapist, Kim Schemmer, at Performing Arts Physical Therapy, has totally transformed me. Also, I think not having a broken neck for 10 years probably helps, because I would try to exercise and I'd be like, and I'm out. 1 second.
I'm sorry, did
Hi!
I ruined the whole thing?
No! I miss you.
How are you?
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. That was fun. We should keep that in. So yeah, but I do think that like not being in horrific physical pain and actually being able to exercise has been really helpful. Kim and I always joke that I was always fake fit because I'm lucky in that I have kind of a muscular frame. So even when I wasn't able to exercise, I've always been a healthy eater. I was able to kind of look like I exercised even though I actually didn't. You know, I herniated discs into my cervical spine when I did the pratfall into the woods, and I had surgery in 2003, and then I literally 3 weeks later went into 9, which I shouldn't have done. It was too early to go back in, and I had to go in and out of shows, and that was really hard. And then very, very, very long, complicated story short, for the entire like 8 or 9 years that I thought I was well, I wasn't. I hadn't fused properly. So I was still in excruciating pain, but I didn't want anybody to know, because you don't want to be the person who everyone's like, that's the girl who's always in excruciating pain. So I tried to cover it up, and finally in the next room, the vibrator play, I got to the point where I literally couldn't even move my head again, and it was so debilitating and depressing. So I went to a different doctor at the Hospital for Special Surgery, where my sister-in-law works, and they were like, you're not fused, and in fact your neck is worse than it was before, because the vertebrae that the screws had gone into had been cracked. So they had to go back in through the back. I would show you my scar, but you'd have to zoom in and it'd be a whole process. But they had to go in May 4th, I had spinal surgery again, where they basically redid it. And it took about 3 months of a rehabilitation. And I was in like this crazy, like what looked like a giant bird feeder for about 3 months. So that was hard, but now I feel amazing, and I can move my head and I can breathe. Like, you don't realize how like your ribs are involved and stuff like that. So I would literally sometimes feel like I couldn't breathe, and it was crazy. It's been a really long journey, you know, from 22 to 31, which is how old I am now. Hey, what? I haven't felt like this since I was 22 years old. So I'm trying to think of it in a positive way, like, yay, now I have my 30s and the rest of my life to enjoy a healthy body. But sometimes in my darker moments, I have some feelings of anger that I didn't know, and I wasn't, that I was led to believe that I was healed and I wasn't. That's hard. Well, I mean, I understand people's questions. I mean, no, you're only you. And unless I like walked around being like, excuse me, sir, this is what's happening with me to everyone in the world, how are they to know? So I understand in a way that people questioned why I was missing shows, and it was hurtful, certainly, because it's pretty hard to have people question your integrity when you're laying on the ground, not able to like lift your head up. So adding on to your already physical pain, emotional pain is not a fun time, although it is understandable. I do get it. I would be disappointed if I went to see a show and the person, one of the people, you know, involved in it was out. I would be disappointed in that, so I get it. But what it did for me is it cultivated my empathy. I have much more empathy for other people and the struggles that they go through. Nobody knows what another person is going through in their private life. And so to make snap judgments or to participate in gossip that is hurtful, I do not do that anymore. You know, I used to when I was younger, because sometimes it's fun. Ooh, what's she doing? What's she thinking? But at the end of the day, you know, we're all people. We're all human beings. And I'm just happy, in a way, to finally feel like absolved of all of it. I feel like the truth shall set you free, and it has. You know, if anyone doubts me, they can look at the back of my neck and the giant scar that will be there for the rest of my life. But that was really hard. I didn't want to miss shows. It was devastating. The reason I kept going in and out and in and out is I kept trying to come back. You know, because I want to be here. I love what I do. And to literally be physically unable to do what you love is so hard. It's really hard. To educate yourself as much as possible about the performers that you admire and why. What is it about them that that you love. And I would advise young children to not try to become professionals as children. I think one of the reasons why I'm able to continue to kind of be myself is that I was forced to like put on plays in my backyard, and it really fostered my creativity. I think doing 8 shows a week can be detrimental to a child because you kind of learn to be cute, you learn to indicate, you learn to show how you're feeling instead of really experience it. So I would say, like, get involved in your community theaters, get involved, you know, with your high school productions and your school productions. Put on a play in your backyard, sing along to Patti LuPone in the mirror. Oh, I did that when I was 9. Seriously. So yeah, I know, I did. I would like sing in the mirror. I would be like, oh my daughters, you know, I'll put soprano. And my dad one time walked in and I fell off of my dresser because I was like, I'm not doing anything, I'm not singing along to Patti LuPone. But I would say to commit to your own integrity. You know, I think everybody wants to be like, she's a Kristen Chenoweth type, she's an Idina Menzel type, she's a Kelly O'Hara type. Be your own type. Those girls are themselves, and that's why they're so phenomenal, you know, because there's nobody like them. So figure out what makes you you and like be the fullest possible version of yourself that you can be. I didn't learn that until bad things had to happen to me. And so I'm grateful for those experiences, but I wish someone had told me. So I'm telling you. That I'm really silly, that Mystery Science Theater 3000 is my favorite thing in the whole world, that I was a super, super unattractive person from the age of like 10 to like 15, that I'm a little bit obsessed with playing solitaire, and that I love my family in like a way that's probably weird. Like I would rather like be with them than anybody else in the whole world, and to the point where it's silly, where yeah, if given the option of who to hang out with, I'd be like my mom, my dad, my sister, my grandma, you know, like all the people that you normally avoid. Those are the peeps that I want to hang out with. Pandora, OBS, music, love it. Solitaire, because I'm obsessed with it. Facebook, even though social media is the end of the world, but it's the way I feel like I get to catch up with everybody. Like that's how I know you have beautiful wedding photos. My other favorite apps are Soundhound. I love Soundhound. Larry the Talking Bird. I love Larry the Talking Bird. It is so fun, and I love to send all my little nieces and nephews and cousins like messages from Larry the Talking Bird to the point where their parents are like, we don't need any more emails of the bird talking. I want to work with Julie Andrews. She's my idol. I've been in love with her, not in love with her, but like, you know, I love her my whole life. I'd really like to work with Jack O'Brien. I feel like he and I would have a blast. I'd love to work with, I love working with Rob Ashford. He's so wonderful. I'd like to work with Rob Fisher again. Anyone named Rob, I basically want to work with them. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I would say Julie Andrews is probably like, she would be the person that I would freak out the most if I got to work with. But I mean, think of who I've worked with. I've gotten to work with Cheetah Rivera, Patti LuPone, Arthur Lawrence, Stephen Sondheim, Nikki Martin, Bart Shearer, I mean, Jerry Zaks. The list goes on and on. I'm omitting so many brilliant people that I've had the great pleasure and honor of working with. Antonio Banderas, and I'm just really lucky. I just want to keep working, period. That's all. I don't care who else is there. I'm kidding. Thank you for looking at me for this long period of time without any makeup on, and my knit cap. And I hope that it's been informative and amusing at times. And please come see Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. It is a fantastic show with fantastic people.